She was the voice of a generation for North Koreans. Her enthusiastic, powerful voice churned out song after song, praising the strength and pride of the DPRK to its citizens and the world. Her beautiful face and youthful appearance, she was the poster child of North Korean propaganda. Ri Kyong-Suk was undisputedly North Korea's superstar of the 1990s and 2000s. In this episode of Mysteries of North Korea, we are going to be investigating Ri Kyong-Suk, the mysterious singer of North Korea. If you've a casual interest in North Korea, then chances are you've probably seen or at least heard this woman before. If you're a hardcore North Korea-phile like myself, you'll probably even know her name, Ri Kyong-Suk. Aside from that, however, chances are you don't know much else. And that's the case for all people living outside of North Korea. For ordinary North Korean citizens, however, Ri Kyong-Suk is a woman who needs no introduction. Born in 1970, she quickly rose to fame in North Korea with her slender, sexy figure, beautiful face, and impressive vocal range. She was one of the many singers for the Pachanbo Electronic Ensemble, which was, until the debut of the Moranbong Band, aka North Koreans' version of K-pop in 2012, was the most famous band in North Korea. As such, she is the voice behind famous North Korean songs like 내 이름 묻지 마세요, 반갑습니다, and 우리를 보라. Among many others. Aside from these tidbit pieces of information, however, we know almost nothing else about her. Rummaging through every inch of the internet reveals nothing else, not even anecdotes. Rummaging through the Korean internet on websites such as Naver, there wasn't exactly anything else either, aside from a few anecdotes about her being a sex slave for Kim Il-sung or Kim Jong-il, which is impossible to verify without sources and in of itself very unlikely. The Korean side of the internet didn't leave me totally empty-handed, however. From what I've been able to piece together, we know she was born in 1970, and that she attended the Mansudae Art Studio in the South Pyongan district of Pyongyang. In 1988, she became a singer for the Pachanbo Electronic Ensemble, where she remained relevant throughout the remainder of the 80s, 90s, and well into the 21st century. In the year 2000, she was awarded the Kim Il-sung Award for her contributions to the state. Despite being on top of the world well into the 21st century, by the time the early 2010s came around, Ri Kyong-Suk all but disappeared, leaving many to wonder what happened to her. Was she the victim of one of North Korea's many political purges following the ascension of Kim Jong-un? Did a political blunder force her into obscurity? Well, not quite. I think the answer, in fact, is a lot simpler than it sounds. Ri Kyong-Suk wasn't the victim of a political purge. Rather, I think she was the victim of a change in direction for North Korean music. Now allow me to explain. I speculate that one of the major reasons that led to Ri Kyong-Suk's disappearance is that the media, as with every other entity in North Korea, is an extension of the North Korean government, only putting out new albums or performing when instructed to do so by the relevant governing body of the Workers' Party, not whenever they feel like it. As a result, musicians and bands can get rearranged or pulled from the spotlight at a whim for virtually any reason the party feels necessary. With that said, I believe the main reason behind her fade from the spotlight was for one major reason: South Korea. Now allow me to clarify. North Korea and South Korea are at war, not just militarily, but also politically, with the two countries competing to spread their influence worldwide. Despite what you might think, for much of the two countries' histories, North Korea has always enjoyed being the more popular of the two Koreas. The reasons for such vary depending on where you live. If you live in a country that was a former communist state, then it's because North Korea was the country that was sticking it to the Western imperialists. Whereas if you lived in the West, it was because they were always in the headlines for being that crazy country that wants to nuke everyone. Remember, whether it's good publicity or bad publicity, publicity is publicity. And this is interesting because a lot of people don't seem to remember that this was the case as recent as 15 years ago. I mean, seriously, think back to the first time you ever heard about Korea. If you're like me and you're in your mid-20s, you probably heard of North Korea first. South Korea wasn't very well known among the general public unless you were one of the few people back then that was into K-pop, or if you were in the US military. It wasn't until July 15th, 2012 that all of this really began to change, and I think some of you already know what I'm talking about.
Oppan Kangnam Style.
Yes, that's right. July 15th, 2012 gave us Kangnam Style, the crazy song from South Korean singer Psy that catapulted not just K-pop, but South Korea as a nation onto the international stage proper. Kangnam Style, whether you love it or hate it, is responsible for launching K-pop into the mainstream medium that it is today, and as a result, South Korean media and entertainment as a whole has benefited from this. People from all walks of life now listen to K-pop or watch South Korean dramas. Hell, BTS was playing over the radio at my gym. Like, that's something I would have never imagined 10 years ago even. This is something that most people never did outside of small groups. This sudden explosion of South Korean culture across the world, which has been dubbed the Hallyu Wave, has resulted in North Korea losing its hegemony as the more famous or infamous of the two Koreas. Even North Korean citizens were succumbing to South Korean culture. With the maturity of internet technology, North Koreans en masse began listening to South Korean music and watching South Korean dramas at unprecedented rates. No longer did the cut-and-dry, propaganda-laden trot music that North Korea was accustomed to making satisfy even the most ardent supporters of the regime. If North Korea was to regain its foothold in the culture war, as well as winning back the interests of its citizens, it had to innovate. And this was the culmination of that innovation. So what did become of our favorite singer, Kyong-Suk? Was she forced to retire by party officials, forever condemned to the annals of obscurity by the changing of the times? Was she executed for some obscure, innocuous offense? The answer to this question was still relatively unknown until 2015, where at a concert in Pyongyang, Kyong-Suk, then 45 years old, appeared before enthusiastic fans who had never forgotten her. Wearing the same pink hanbok from years ago, instilled with the same robust enthusiasm, she sang her signature song, 반갑습니다, proving to the world that Kyong-Suk is still alive, well, and very much beloved by her fans in North Korea and around the world.